Alright, buckle up, because today's football world is absolutely on fire, and if you thought last week was wild, you haven't seen anything yet. We're talking a bombshell at Real Madrid that nobody saw coming, Liverpool quietly plotting their next big move, Barcelona's transfer desk looking more chaotic than ever, and Manchester United somehow, someway, winning the game they had absolutely no business winning. Oh, and Guardiola might be packing his bags. Let's get into it. First, let's talk about something that genuinely stopped me mid-scroll when I saw it. Real Madrid and José Mourinho. Together. Again. I know, your first reaction is probably the same as mine. Is this a joke? Is someone messing around? But stick with me here, because the more you think about it, the more it actually starts to make a strange kind of sense. Florentino Perez has never been the type of president who chases trends. He chases results. And right now, Real Madrid are trending in completely the wrong direction. No Liga. Out of the Cup. Out of the Champions League. For a club that treats silverware like oxygen, this season has basically been one long, slow suffocation. Alvaro Arbeloa came in mid-season, did some genuinely impressive things. That second leg against Bayern was something special, and he managed to actually connect with the dressing room, which, given what happened with Xabi Alonso, is no small achievement. But connection alone doesn't fill trophy cabinets. Perez knows that. The squad knows that. And so here we are, with reports from Record suggesting that the Merengues are seriously pursuing Mourinho, and that an announcement could come sooner than anyone expects. Then there's the question Mourinho was asked yesterday, whether he could guarantee he'd still be at Benfica next season. His answer? Can you guarantee you'll still be working at the same channel? That's not deflection. That's a man who already knows something. And think about what Mourinho actually brings to this current Madrid squad. You've got Vinicius, who plays at his best when he's angry at the world. You've got Mbappé, who needs a system built around making him dangerous rather than just decorating the attack. Mourinho doesn't just organize defenses, he weaponizes emotion. He turns a dressing room into a fortress and the stadium into a pressure cooker. Remember what El Clasico looked like the last time he was in Madrid? Players didn't even need a reason to fight. A glance was enough. Right now, Real Madrid almost need that energy back. And Perez has done this before. He took Ancelotti when everyone had written him off, and that worked out pretty well. So maybe, just maybe, the special one gets one more chapter at the Bernabeu. Speaking of Mbappé though, because you can't talk about Madrid right now without talking about him, the criticism keeps growing louder. Emmanuel Petit, former Arsenal and Chelsea midfielder, came out and said it plainly. The problems at Real Madrid started the moment Mbappé walked through the door. That his presence brought selfishness into a dressing room that had previously been built on something far more powerful, unity. And you know what? It's hard to completely argue with that. Before Mbappé arrived, that Madrid team was a machine. Vinicius, Rodrigo, Bellingham, Carvajal, they weren't just talented individuals, they were a system where every piece moved with purpose. They won the Champions League. They won La Liga. Trophies were almost routine. Since Mbappé's arrival? A UEFA Super Cup. One day. One tournament. That's it. But here's where it gets more complicated, because Mourinho of all people actually defended the Frenchman. He said before the Bayern match, criticizing Mbappé made no sense, that he scored, did his job, and that one bad game means nothing when he'd been carrying the team all season. He pointed at the goalkeeper and the defense for the collapse, not the striker. And honestly, both sides of this argument make sense depending on how you look at it. Mbappé didn't concede 6 goals across 2 legs against Bayern. But the team hasn't been the same since he joined. The debate isn't going anywhere until Madrid start winning again. Now let's cross over to Merseyside, where Liverpool are already planning for a summer that could reshape their attack completely. Hugo Ekitike's Achilles tendon injury is the kind of news that makes you wince just reading it. One of the worst injuries in football. By the most optimistic estimates, he won't be back until early next year. And Liverpool aren't the kind of club that waits. The name that keeps coming up in discussions inside the club is Anthony Gordon. 23 years old, electric pace, relentless work rate, and already adapted to the Premier League's intensity. He can play on the left, he can cover Salah's position, And with Salah's departure looking increasingly likely, that versatility matters a lot right now. The problem? Newcastle. They value Gordon at around €100 million and have absolutely zero interest in negotiating that down. He's one of their most important assets. But here's the interesting angle. Newcastle could face financial pressure from the Premier League's financial regulations this summer, and if a club needs to balance the books, sometimes even the untouchables become available. Liverpool know this. They're watching carefully. No formal offer has been made yet, but the conversations have quietly begun, positions are being mapped out, and when the transfer window opens, this one could move fast. Meanwhile, over in Barcelona, the saga of Marcus Rashford has reached its conclusion, and not the one the Englishman was probably hoping for. He arrived on loan with real momentum. 6 goal contributions in his first 3 Champions League appearances. 7 assists and 2 goals in his opening 13 La Liga matches. For a moment it genuinely looked like Barca had found their missing piece on the flank, a forward with hunger, quality, and a point to prove. Then the season wore on. The performances faded. The chances dried up. In his final 22 matches, Rashford managed just 8 goal contributions total. The option to buy him for €30 million existed, and Barcelona looked at those numbers and quietly decided, no thanks. But that's not the end of the story, it's just the beginning of the next chapter. Barca want Julian Alvarez. Badly. The Argentine has been extraordinary at Atletico Madrid, and the Catalans see him as the kind of forward who transforms a team. They even tried to package Ferran Torres and Marc Casado into a deal. Atletico said no without blinking. So now Barcelona are looking elsewhere, and one name from Mundo Deportivo has raised a few eyebrows: Alexander Sorloth. Stay with me here. The Norwegian giant isn't the typical Barcelona profile. He's not exactly graceful on the ball, he doesn't press with silky elegance, he's 2 meters of muscle who runs through defenders rather than around them. But here's the thing that makes this genuinely interesting: Sorloth loves scoring against Barcelona. More goals against them than against any other team he's faced in Spain. 7 goals, 3 assists. He's absolutely haunted them. And the thinking at Barca is simple: if you can't stop him, make him yours. Whether that deal actually happens is another question entirely, but as transfer ideas go, it's at least creative. In Italy, something quietly dramatic is unfolding at Roma. Claudio Ranieri came in last season and did what Ranieri always does: brought calm to chaos. He steadied a sinking ship, gave the club direction, and then made clear he wasn't there for the long haul. He brought in Gian Piero Gasperini as the man to build the future, championed that appointment himself, and then moved into a management role within the club. Clean handover. Logical succession. Except now those two are barely speaking. Reports from Italian media paint a tense atmosphere inside the club, and it spilled into public view when Gasperini, at a recent press conference, openly commented on how differently he's being treated compared to his time at Atalanta. That was aimed directly at the structure around him, and by extension, at Ranieri. Now Ranieri is reportedly the one under pressure. His absence from Trigoria's training ground before a recent match didn't go unnoticed. Neither did the fact that he wasn't sitting alongside sporting director Mele Massara at the game, as he usually would be. The Friedkin family are flying into Italy soon, and that visit feels significant. Someone in this situation is going to have to give way, and right now the signs are pointing in one direction. Let's check in briefly with Inter Miami, because the story of Javier Mascherano leaving as head coach has taken on a life of its own. The club replaced him with Guillermo Hoyos, a coach with no major reputation or track record, and almost immediately people started connecting dots. Messi is at the club. Messi has incredible influence. The new coach seems conveniently soft. You can see where the theory goes. Messi himself has always denied wanting to be a manager. He's talked about ownership being his path after playing. And interestingly, he recently purchased a club from Spain's 3rd division, so the interest in football administration is clearly there. Whether he's pulling strings at Miami or simply leading by presence and personality, one thing is clear: wherever Messi goes, the power dynamics in the room shift. That's not accusation, it's just observation. It happened at Barcelona too, across multiple managerial regimes. Finally, let's get to Stamford Bridge, and a result that probably has Chelsea fans staring at the ceiling at night. Manchester United came to London with 4 of their main central defenders unavailable. 4. In their place, Aiden played with minimal senior experience alongside right-back Nasser Mazraoui at the heart of defence. That partnership should have been the soft target. Chelsea should have torn it apart. Instead, they couldn't score once. Bruno Fernandes played the ball through before halftime, Akasua finished it cleanly past Sanchez, and that was essentially the game. United sat deeper in the second half than a submarine. Their expected goals in that second period were basically a rounding error. But they held on, 3 points, job done. For Chelsea, the timing couldn't be worse. Liverpool are now 4 points ahead in the race for that last Champions League spot with just 5 games left. The window is closing fast. And while the standings tighten, somewhere in Manchester, Michael Carrick is winning over fans, though the club's hierarchy reportedly remains unconvinced. Reports suggest Jim Ratcliffe prefers a high-intensity alpha personality in the mold of Ruben Amorim, and Carrick, whatever his qualities, doesn't fit that picture. Julian Nagelsmann remains the name being pushed internally by the scouting director. That's your football world today. Never boring. Never quiet.